Last Rosh Hashanah, I think it was, I talked about kindness, and there's still kindness bumper stickers on our cars and even on our bathrooms here at the synagogue. So I apologize because in some ways I might undermine kindness tonight. Kindness matters. Of course it does. Imagine in this very, very, very broken world how treating each other with love and compassion and decency and respect, even if we don't see eye to eye, even if we disagree strongly, imagine how much healing could take place. Now, I know this might sound like a fairy tale, an impossibility, but just imagine for a moment college campuses today. Imagine if those raging against Israel were driven not by rage, not by hatred, but by kindness. Yes, it's absurd to do this. Those on the far end of these protests, the anti-Zionists, are clearly driven by rage. But what would happen if, instead of directing this rage at Jewish students, at Zionist students, they saw these students as their fellow classmates, as human beings who deserve love and respect? Just imagine it. And imagine if the Jewish students, the Zionists on campus, were able to do the same thing, have confidence in themselves, their beliefs, and the educational system, to see those who view the situation in Israel differently as community members who deserve respect. Now, imagining all of this requires us to suppress some strong feelings. I know. But just for tonight's sermon, join me on this little Kumbaya island where unicorns eat from cotton candy trees. We won't stay long, I promise, because the boat's about to leave, because we can't stay there that long. Because staying too long on such an island, hold on as I say this, because you might not get what I'm going to say yet, but staying on this island too long is a waste of time, even if it sounds lovely. And let's be honest, such an island doesn't exist. And to be clear, such an island, at least according to Judaism, should never exist. This doesn't mean that what is going on campuses should exist. What's going on campuses isn't a reality we should get used to at all. But at the same time, if you're going to stand up for what you believe in, pursue the path that's in your heart of hearts, pursue what is right and just, you can't dwell in a place where unicorns eat from cotton candy trees. You can't hang out on an island that is all warm and fuzzy if you want to make the rest of the world a better place. When I make the choice to enter dialogues and debates around Israel, for example, and there's so many other examples we could pick, I do so willing to share and hear from people who think differently than I do. And sometimes I have amazing discussions with people. In all of the cases, I see the folks who think differently than I do as people that I care about, because I do, in general, care about every human being. Every human being is worthy of respect and compassion, worthy of kindness. If I didn't feel this way, I would not engage in debates and dialogues with others, especially with others who see differently than I do. Unfortunately, in the world that we live in, despite my initial feelings about the people I often find myself in debate or dialogue with, about various different topics, not always, but too often, I learn pretty quickly that they're not interested in treating me kindly. They don't have respect for me, my views, my religion, my support of Israel, my political viewpoints. Kindness does not drive the conversation. Anger and too often hate does. And I find myself disengaging. In Judaism, kindness is what must always drive us. Leviticus 19:18 says, "Love your neighbor as yourself." Now, assuming you love yourself, and if you don't, we need to talk. Assuming you love yourself, you must shower others with the same love you have for yourself. And we're also taught in Judaism on three things the world stands. And we're taught in Pirkei Avot these three things are Torah, that is learning Jewishly, Avodah, which is praying and doing Jewish rituals and practices, and Gimilut Chasadim, performing deeds of loving kindness. Kindness is key in Judaism. But kindness isn't enough, because the world is not filled with unicorns and cotton candy trees. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, it says in this week's Torah portion. Justice, justice shall you pursue. What is justice? Anybody have an idea that you want to toss out there? Fairness? Getting even? Anybody else? Elliot, did you have an answer? Respect one another. Interesting. Might be the best answer of the night so far. No disrespect to anybody else so far, but yeah. Anything else?
So, I'm not saying what justice is, but it says pursue it.
We're going to get there in a second.
Okay. Not beat it out.
Yep, right. Okay, good. Doing the right thing. Anybody else? These are all great answers. In Judaism, just like in the American judicial system, justice is often seen as a scale. And many of us find ourselves on this end of the scale. We have a lot of stuff. We got a lot of privileges. We got a lot of rights. And then there's those up here who don't have that much. And so Judaism talks about balancing the scales. And a lot of you in your answers talked about that. It is about doing the right thing and fixing the wrongs and uplifting the oppressed and standing up for the marginalized. It's hard, hard, hard work. Now, Alan brings up a point. Justice, justice shall you pursue. Now, the Torah is deliberate with every single word. Why couldn't the Torah just say, justice shall you pursue? It says, justice, justice you shall pursue. One year, a Torah school kid gave me a great answer. It was before they had computers. And they made a mistake and they couldn't take it out. You know what? It could be true. It's not just an emphasis. It's a really strong emphasis. It's that justice is super, super, super important. It says it twice because it wants you to pay attention to that word twice. It's strong, and it says you shall pursue it. Now, as Dr. Ribbler pointed out, it doesn't say you should beat it down, but you should go after it with great passion and zeal. You have to have passion to pursue justice because it is hard work. Now, let's put justice here for a second. Kindness is lovely, but kindness without the passion of justice, well, that is equivalent to giving flowers to someone who's bleeding on the ground before you, just down the road from the unicorn feasting on cotton candy, and saying, I love you. The world loves you. Please feel good. It's not a bad thing. It's a nice thing. But you can do more. Kindness is expressed in the calls and the texts I and some of you might have gotten from people last week. We stand with you and your community, and we're so sorry to hear about the hostages being murdered. But those people, not all of them, most of them, they didn't attend a memorial service. They haven't marched in Plantation for hostages. They don't go into the synagogues. They don't know what it's like to be Jewish right now. They haven't been in any way politically active to liberate the hostages. They've sent kind messages to us Jews. But it's just kindness. Again, I'm not saying kindness is bad. But kindness without the passion for justice is just feel-good behavior. And when I say feel good, it is feel good for yourself, not for anyone else. I remember vividly during George Floyd, that horrible episode in our country. And I called a friend of mine who's black, and I said, I'm so sorry. She said, that's not enough, Andrew. What are you going to do about it? Her comments got me much more engaged and involved because it was just kindness. It was just words. And because of her, I started to get involved with several black churches and work with them and do things to make a difference. Kindness isn't enough. Judaism says you need both kindness and justice together. They're a force to be reckoned with. In fact, Judaism says you cannot separate the two. The prophet Micah says, he has told you, O man, what is good, and what the Lord requires of you, only to do justice and to love kindness. Only to do justice and to love kindness. Embracing both is so important. In the book of Proverbs, it says, to do what is right and just is more desired by God than sacrifice, ritual, prayer, any type of Jewish observance. So you could run out of the synagogue tonight. Just embrace justice and passion. It's as central as it gets. In Judaism, pursuing justice implies acting from a place of kindness to change the world. To not just say nice things to people from your island where unicorns eat from those cotton candy trees. Not just sending flowers or posting on social media. Pursuing justice from a place of kindness means shaking the foundation of the world, turning things completely upside down to make this world a better place. Abraham Joshua Heschel taught us that God's concern for justice grows out of God's kindness, God's love, and God's compassion for us. Justice exists, he says, in relation to a person and is something done by a person. Justice dies when dehumanized, no matter how exactly it may be exercised. Justice dies when defied, for beyond all justice is God's compassion. The logic of justice may seem impersonal, yet the concern for justice is an act of love. When we truly act from a place of kindness, when we truly care about other people, when we truly love other people and feel deep compassion for them, whether they be Israelis who have been bombarded by Hamas and Hezbollah, Palestinians who are held hostage by Hamas, Ukrainians assaulted by Russians, our Jewish brothers and sisters who have been attacked right here in the United States, people of color who have been threatened in our own neighborhoods, the LGBTQ community who continues to be marginalized in our own state of Florida, the unhoused here in our own community, the hungry, abused women, children in need, the elderly, the sick. The list is endless. But each of us has our own passions. And Judaism says when we truly care, when we have a passion, we must pursue justice. We must balance the scales. We must right the wrongs. We must pull the marginalized in and lift up the oppressed. And this does not need to happen on an island where unicorns eat from cotton candy trees. You like that, right? I wish I could live there sometimes. Pursuing justice is the antithesis of that island. It's often loud and messy and confrontational and unsettling and infuriating. Pursuing justice can involve anger and heated exchanges. It can involve protests and intense political action. But we must never forget that at its core, justice and kindness go hand in hand. The prophet Ezekiel said, "Thus says the Lord our God, let it suffice you, O princes of Israel. Remove violence and spoil and execute justice and righteousness." We must never let our passionate pursuit of justice separate itself from love and compassion. Violence and hatred have no room in the pursuit of justice. Of course, sometimes, though, as we know all too well these days, war is necessary or inevitable. But as the great late Elie Wiesel wrote in Hope, Despair, and Memory, no Jewish war has ever been regarded as holy. For us, Wiesel taught, a holy war is a contradiction in terms. War dehumanizes, war diminishes, war debases all who wage it. But that's not to say there aren't times when it is necessary or inevitable. He continues by saying and quoting the Talmud, where it says, "It is the wise men who will bring about peace," because perhaps wise men remember best. And I believe that it's wise women and men who truly pursue justice to make this world better and, to God willing, end today's wars and prevent future ones. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Go and pursue your passion to bring this world to a better place. You've all got your causes. You've all got your issues. Pursue it passionately. And in that way, live your Judaism. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.